Okay, guys, I am here today with Kate All from Simple Pin Media. How are you, Kate? I'm so excited you're here.
I'm good. I'm excited to be here too. I'm really excited to talk about Pinterest, which is what I know about.
One of my favorite tools. It's great because it's one of the things that I feel like I grew up with because it was established right when I started.
Nice. I love that. You grew up with Pinterest. How cool is that? Love it.
Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. I gave a little bit of information to my audience before I started. Would you mind giving just a little bit of background about yourself and your site?
Yeah, so I started Simple Pin Media as a Pinterest management company 3 years ago in January of 2014. And so our primary focus is to manage for people and for our clients so that they don't have to worry about Pinterest on their own. They can really focus back on creating content. And so that was first and foremost, but it's kind of unfolded into a teaching side. So having products, having workshops, things like that, because there's a lot of people who can't afford our services. So we want to be able to serve that element of our audience as well.
I love that. And as many people I'm sure are aware, Pinterest drives just so much traffic. And I mean, personally for me, it drives anywhere from 70 to probably 80% of my traffic. And I think a lot of
Mm.
my audience is within that same boat. So it's fabulous. So why would you say Pinterest is where you kind of started? Why do you feel like that's the way to go?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I did a lot of Facebook work before I actually went into Pinterest, and I
Okay.
liked the instant gratification of Facebook. And when they changed the algorithm in like late 2013, a lot of bloggers and the blogger that I was working for had gone over to Pinterest. And in the beginning, it felt that same instant gratification because we didn't have the smart feed. It was very chronological still. But over time, I've realized that Pinterest is one of those things that it's such a unique social platform that it's not even really like a social media platform. It's a place where we go to search for things, and it's a place where I go to figure out how am I going to, do the addition on my house? What's my bathroom tile going to look like? And this search element of really being able to see the images of what you're looking for. And so as you start to pair that together, you think, okay, we have Google, and then we have YouTube, and then we have Pinterest. There are these three main areas that we go to search for things. And as I thought about that, I thought this is a really powerful way to invest in your business with Pinterest marketing. And so how can I teach people how to use it? Because I felt like a lot of people were just confused. They're like, what? How do I pin? I can pin the same pin again. What do I do with my boards? Like, just this, like, Pinterest, I don't know what to do with it.
Yes.
And so I really wanted to demystify that and make it super simple that Pinterest doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be geared towards the person that you're trying to reach. And you just have to figure out what that looks like for you. And so I think that's why I love teaching it and why I love using it. Like I don't like Facebook. I don't like trying to figure out their algorithms. I hate Facebook ads with a passion.
Yes.
And I don't like Twitter. Instagram is great. I like to lurk, but I don't understand how you can get really good traffic from that. So the fact that you can get great traffic from Pinterest and it's a very long-term investment platform, I love it. I don't envision Pinterest going away anytime soon. And I love the changes they're making that work really well for the user and consumer because that's where I think that's where their focus has to be. And so how can we as marketers try to get into that space so that whatever the people are searching, our content comes up. And we do that in a way that's well and not gamey, right? Like
Yes.
just it doesn't have to be crazy. It just has to be targeted. So
Yeah. Now, I love the way that you talked about how you use it to like plan things for yourself because I think a lot of times as bloggers, we get like these blinders on where we're not thinking about how do people outside of our industry actually use it. And I've had conversations with people about it. And my favorite thing that I love to hear from people is, oh, those Pinterest people, they're just so smart. I just love all the things that Pinterest makes. And I look at them, and it's like friends of mine that I'm like friends with from high school, and I'm like, that's not how Pinterest works. And it's like you're trying to stay calm. I can
yes,
explain. That's all bloggers. That's their
right.
content. This is how this works. Pinterest
Yes.
doesn't sit down and create all these wonderful things for you.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, and it also goes to the point of like that's the basic user sees they lump everything into Pinterest like it's just this big giant platform, and that's just how they think about it now. But I love though that this is where they go to get all those ideas. Like
Yes.
even with a friend of mine as she's building out her kitchen, like last night we were looking through Pinterest and she's like, "Okay, look what I've saved. What do you think about this?" And we're searching, and I love that because then it's so much more fun than Google. Like Google's just a bunch of text, you know?
Yes.
I want to see it.
That's it exactly. Because I
Hmm.
do. I eat and I purchase with my eyes and my stomach. So for
Yes.
me, when I search for something in Google, if it's a recipe, I'm going to immediately switch it over to images. I don't look at the text side. So that's why I love Pinterest as well. It's all those gorgeous images right in your face. And you can just say, ooh, I love that.
Yes. I know. We were looking at like rose gold, like pendant lamps and, matching up like drawer pulls. I mean, the possibilities and the uses for Pinterest are like completely endless. And that's why I always encourage people who are marketing when they ask the question, like, are my people even over there? I always tell them to go over there and search for their content first, because if you go over there and your content's already being pinned, then your audience is over there. And because of the wide range of topics, almost everybody's audience is over there in your niche. Like you have to be over there.
Yes, my husband would kill me for actually putting this out there, but he searches Pinterest for certain things. So it's changing. I think it is. I mean,
A lot of men do. It's
yes,
men they're like the fastest growing demographic of using it.
yes.
Yeah,
It's
I
because
love
it's
it.
just so easy. No, for sure. So you
Yeah.
talked about the images. We talk about how everything is so beautiful. So as a blogger, what
Yeah.
should our images, what kind of sizes are we talking? What should they look like?
So the ideal size that Pinterest has put out is 735 by 1100. And if you use an image program like Canva or PicMonkey, I know Canva has a predetermined template or pre-sized template that you can use that is that. Some people will change, they'll kind of do maybe 500 by 1400, a longer, skinnier image. There's a lot of things you can do, but I wouldn't go smaller than 500. And I actually wouldn't go any longer than 1800 because Pinterest will cut off the image and hit expand more. And that used to be a pretty popular theory that if you got a super long image, like people would do these giant infographics like 4,000 in length. And Pinterest has cut those off. So it's kind of not worth your time to do that anymore. But as far as images, I first tell people, like, I understand that it is really hard for some people to create images. For some people, it is not their skill set. It's not mine. I actually I am terrible at images, which is why I have a creative director, because I can go, this is what I want the image to say. Will you just make it look pretty? Because when
Right.
I try, terrible. So if you are someone that feels like images are not your skill set, I always tell people one of two things. One, use a template. Maybe look around for what you like. And this is if you can't afford to pay someone to do it. And sometimes you can get people who do images for like $10 or $15 an image. I feel like if you are not a good image person, that's a wise investment for your business, especially because Pinterest is so image based. And so you want somebody that's going to create something that's good.
Yeah.
So the other thing I tell people too is if you, again, don't have that budget, ask your friends. So go through Pinterest, and I made a secret board actually for pins that stood out to me. And I make notes for my creative director to say, like, I really like the words that they used on this. This totally popped, this color popped for me. I like the way they worded this, so that I can go back to that board and see if I can find a theme. Maybe there's a certain color that I love, or maybe there's a certain style. And then I try to focus there. And then if you do create images and you don't feel confident in them, ask your friends to give you feedback. I mean, it's kind of, I said this in a talk this last weekend, but it's kind of that same idea of a shirt. Like, if you are going out to do something and you have a shirt on and your friend's there and you're like, does this shirt look good? You want her to tell you, honestly, no, it doesn't look good, because you don't want to walk out the house and look like an idiot. Like, ask your friends or your colleagues, will you look at my images and please give me feedback? And be prepared to receive that.
Yes.
So if you love this image and your heart's going to be totally broken if they say it's terrible, don't ask them for feedback because you're not willing to get it.
Yes. No, that's totally true.
And then I think the last element is a text overlay. Some people don't want to put text overlay on their images, and I totally understand that. But I also know that the Pinterest user in certain elements, like recipes or maybe like travel tips, that text overlay can really communicate a great amount of information about what they're going to see on the other side. So that's kind of like your billboard advertising as someone scrolling through on their phone. And that's an important piece, is that your text has to be easy to read, because if most people are on their 6-inch phone screen, you have to make sure that it's something they can read and it's not super scripty and they're like, what is that? Because they're not going to take their time. They're just going to continue to scroll by. Right. So think of it like billboard advertising. Are you catching them? Like maybe it's a phrase or maybe it's something else, but just to really be thinking about the image being catchy and the right size, and then that text overlay being simple and concise and not super wordy.
That totally makes sense. So a lot of my audience, I think primarily I have a lot of food bloggers. So a lot of them create their own images. And one of the things that we talk about is that you do want a text overlay because you can't necessarily tell from a picture necessarily what it is. But at the same time, you don't want it to cover the beautiful photograph that you just took.
Absolutely. So one tip that I know one of our clients does is she adds a lot of white space when she's taking the photo, so that instead of trying to build those stacked photos, which a lot of food bloggers do with the image, text box, image, she does it to where she just takes a longer vertical image with that white space and uses that white space for her text. So that's another option to think about when you're shooting pictures as a food blogger is, how am I going to not go over my food? And how do I not have, you can do the stacked images of the, 3 or whatever, but it's not as necessary as like, what does the image pull you in? You can still do these stacked things and they can still be not so appetizing looking. Right. So you want to be thinking about that too. And relatable. I've told, you and I both participated in the Food Summit Entrepreneur.
With Nicole
Food
Culver.
Entrepreneur. Yes, with Nicole Culver.
Yes.
And one of the things I said there was also to think about your end cook. Like if you're a food blogger and you are trying to appeal to the basic home cook, then if you have a beautifully styled, dark background, amazing cake, the chances are they're not going to click through on it because it feels like, oh, this is more just eye candy. It's not something that I can do. So if like I have the 3-ingredient mom who wants a quick brownie recipe, then that's what your brownie needs to look like, is approachable. Right. And if you want to target the Savier or, those beautiful photos, do that. But just know that's your target. You're not going to get the home cook with your beautifully artistic, amazing photographs. Like, I'm just looking at that like in amazement. I'm not even thinking I can make it. I'm just going like, that's a beautiful photo.
Right. And it's then something that I'll save and say, oh, look how pretty that is. But it's not something I'm going to click through to try to figure out because it's intimidating. It feels like there's no way I could possibly pull that off. I know exactly what kind of photographs you're talking about. For sure.
And then in your mind, you're thinking of the grocery list. Like, oh man, there's like 50 ingredients I know I don't have in my house, and they're going to cost me $1,000. I'm out. Like, that's really what happens.
That's so funny. So, so true. So you kind of mentioned in the beginning about the smart feed. And I think as someone that grew up with Pinterest, that was very used to, I pin it, I get traffic. It's immediate. It's fabulous. Yes. It's that immediate gratification. When the smart feed came in, it was kind of like, heart attack. So talk about what the smart feed has kind of done for Pinterest and how we can use it to our advantage.
Yeah, that's a good one. So Smart Feed changed in August of 2014. And when they made that change, they made it because they were trying to make a shift towards making sure the end user is seeing what they want to see. So that your home feed is not a mishmash of all your friends and who you follow. You could have the cat lady and you could have the quotes, which was fun. We all loved that.
Yes.
And you could figure out if like your friends were pregnant because they started pinning things and you're like, I know somebody's having a baby. But now what it is it's based on interest. So like a new user coming onto Pinterest is not prompted to follow someone. They're prompted to follow an interest, because Pinterest is trying to figure out what are people searching and how can we gear your home feed and what you see towards what you're interested in. And so while this change was really frustrating, it was a stepping stone towards promoted pins, towards buyable pins, so that if you were searching for leggings, then that would populate your feed, and then they could figure out, oh, you want to see buyable pins about leggings, and you want to see promoted pins. And so as a marketer, what our job is to switch from this very time sensitive, let's put up a pin every 5 minutes to make sure it's getting into the feed all the time, into being more strategic about what my keywords are, who I'm targeting. So instead of throwing all your darts on the wall and just hoping people will pick them up, you're now going, okay, my end user is the mom who cooks at home with the 3-ingredient brownies. I need to be really smart about what my keywords are on my pinnable images, and I need to be smart about the other type of content that I'm pinning for this woman. Am I pinning quick and easy dinner recipes, quick and easy dessert? So I think while the shift was frustrating because they did not get it right in the beginning, it was very much, when Pinterest makes a change, there's a lot of bumps. And I've always told people, when you see Pinterest make a large change, you do not change with it. You watch and wait for about 6 months to see where they're going to land, because if you are reactive every single time you see a change, you're going to drive yourself absolutely nuts. You really do need to stay the course of where you're going. And a lot of people will mention that Pinterest changes algorithms along the way. And what I like to tell them is that the Smart Feed is their algorithm. They will make mobile updates and they will change certain things, but the way they read content really hasn't changed all that much.
Right.
We still have them reading based on keywords or based on, the images. So I guess I would just say that as a caution, when people hear that, my traffic is down, Pinterest has made a change, first, take a breath. And number 2, go back and look at your traffic and see, did your traffic do the same thing last year? Because we all know Pinterest is very seasonal, this very much with food bloggers. You get a lot of ups and downs and kind of all around. So you need to pay attention to traffic in big chunks.
Right.
And that's how you really can work within the Smart Feed. Because if where before you could watch your traffic just surge, you could pin a pin in the evening and you get all these people on your site. That's not the case anymore. Whereas if you pin something today, I might not see it for 4 days, 10 days, 14 days, or ever if I've never searched anything to do with that.
Right.
So I think that's why, love it or hate it, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's our job to figure out, how do we find that target person within the Smart Feed?
Yes. Control what you can control, and that's it. So
absolutely.
Talking about you talk about the keywords and talking about the description. I've had a lot of different conversations with people that have said there's a certain amount of characters that you're allowed to get in. It should just be keywords. No, you should use hashtags. What would you, it goes on and on. What would you recommend for the description?
So the pinnable description, is obviously going to start back on your blog in the alt text portion of your photo. That's where you always, so we'll talk about what you're going to do here. Never use a hashtag. Pinterest has definitely discouraged them. They don't work on their platform. You can obviously use a hashtag if you're working for a brand and they have required you to use a hashtag. That's not a deal breaker. It's not going to tank your traffic or anything like that. It's just Pinterest has said, we're not like Instagram. We're different. So Don't populate your description with hashtags.
Right.
Then I would tell people, make it very simple. Pinterest is making a change, and I don't know if it's going to stick. I know they're testing it, where your home feed on your phone and on your desktop, you cannot see a description in sight. It's just images. So the only words or indications about what that pin is what you would see on the image, right? So they've shortened it in order to make this move. They've shortened what you see. So right now, if you're not one of those people that your account is being tested on with no descriptions, you see about 80 to 100 characters.
Okay.
And so I did a whole post on keywording and where to keyword on my site, and I'll send you the link for that.
Yes,
but one of the things I tell people is just put the title, and then I put like 3 tips to understanding the smart feed / Pinterest marketing / social media management, or something like that. I only do like 2 keywords or so, because what can happen is what happened in the beginning with Google is people started keyword stuffing. And what we find is when we try to do something that games the system will kick back and figure out your game and then penalize you.
Right.
So whatever decision you make about keywording, some people just put keywords in that I would caution against that, and just write a normal description. Whatever it might be, 3 ingredient brownies to make at home, right. / dessert recipes / brownies. Whatever you're going to do, just don't. The pendulum swings so much sometimes with Pinterest. Don't swing with it. Just stay right in the middle and continue to stay the course by writing basic descriptions.
Right. No, that definitely makes sense. So let's talk about, what amount of pins would you recommend per day? I always get that question. And in what ratio would you say from your own pins to someone, other people's?
So we've played with that a lot over the year. And so I'll tell you what I start with. And what we start with is 20 pins a day, a 50-50 ratio. That's like a really good place to land. But I will say that there's other factors besides your number of pins per day. You could do 20 pins per day and not even hit your target. You could be like all over the map. Some people who do 80 to 100 pins a day. The problem with that is that sometimes they'll be using a program that loops their content or has it on a campaign. And what's going out is not seasonal. So you might have like a couple Christmas pins going out right now, but nobody's thinking about Christmas anymore. They're thinking about Valentine's Day, or they're thinking about, winter break or something like that, spring fashion.
Right.
So less focusing on number of pins per day, focusing on what is actually going onto the platform. So for your content, is that content that is already trending pretty well on Pinterest? This requires you to look at your analytics. Yes. Do you know where the clicks are coming from? And if you don't, then you really are pinning in the dark. You have no idea what is popular, what is trending. So if you choose to pin 10 pins a day, that's absolutely fine. It's just, what are those 10 pins containing? We've also tested pinning just people's content with maybe only a little bit of outside content. That's worked too. So I tell people, start with a base, give it 3 months, then evaluate in your analytics what's worked and what's not worked, and then adjust as needed. And so then you can see, is this a good fit for my account? Some people, we have someone we pin for that does 10 pins a day, and she gets like 200,000 page views a month. And we have somebody who we pin 30 pins a day. She gets 200,000 page views a month. So you have 2 different sets of people with 2 different sets of content getting the same amount of page views with totally different number of pins per day. So you just have to look at who is your target person, and am I offering them and pinning for them what they would be searching for?
Right. I love the way that you say to go look into your analytics, because I think that helps bring up past content. I mean, I'll go and look a month ahead or a couple weeks ahead and look and see, okay, what was popular during that time? Let's start getting that rolling through. So that definitely makes sense. I love that. Are there scheduling tools for Pinterest that you recommend?
Yeah, so for us, we use Tailwind primarily, and that's mostly because of the ease of use. I did use Viral Tag for the first year that I ran Simple Pin, and it was really one of the only options out there, and I liked it. But once I transitioned to Tailwind, I felt that it was much quicker for me and much more productive. Like, I understood what was going on. We do use Ahology a little bit. We focused a little less on that route because some of our clients don't want to license their content to Ahology, which is a requirement of being part of their, well, it's not a requirement, but if you want to work with the brands and get the full advantages,
Right.
licensing your content is the way to go over there. So some of our clients have moved away from that, but some still use it and find that it is a really good free scheduling tool, but just knowing you're buying into that brand work over there. So those are the two that we use. I know there's a lot of other ones out there, but I try to stick with the ones that are approved by Pinterest. And there's a page on Pinterest.com that you can even Google like approved Pinterest schedulers, and they will give you a list like Buffer and Curate, I think is another one. Buffer's pretty tough to use and pretty time consuming. I've tried to use it and I found that I spend more time messing with my schedule than actually focused on pinning. So if you're going to choose a scheduling tool, I always tell people to look for, does it make you more productive, and does it allow you to keep touching base with your account to make sure you know what's going on? Because if you're super removed from it, that's when we see traffic kind of start to take a nosedive, because you haven't checked in to see what's going on.
Okay. That makes sense. Yes. I use Tailwind, and I was surprised actually by all of the features that it offers. I ended up doing a webinar with one of the people from Tailwind, and she showed me the interval setting and to be able to use a board list. And I was like,
yeah,
oh my God, this is what I've been looking for. Are you kidding me? This just saved me hours.
I know, yeah. And we actually have the How to Master Tailwind course that people can buy. It's like super inexpensive and it's just an hour, but that's what people end up telling us is that they're frustrated because they're like, I don't know like how to really maximize it. But then when you use intervals and board lists, it's like,
yes.
I mean, it's amazing.
And then with their new tribes feature, when that came out, I was like, oh, I love you guys.
That solves so well for us as a team, because we have a network that solved a lot of problems for us crossing lines and cross-pollinating content. But it also solved that Facebook share group problem, which felt like I kept hearing over and over from people that they were just like exhausted trying to keep up with those and repinning and which one am I supposed to pin and liking and getting kicked out of groups. It just felt so much extra work that wasn't really super business building. Like, it's not really going to make you money in that hour you just spent doing a Facebook share group, So
yes. No, absolutely.
I'm glad they came up with that.
We are going to include the link. Is your course open for Tailwind right
yes.
now? It's Evergreen?
Yep, it's always open. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Yes, I need to check that out too. I may have put my VA through that.
Yes, smart. Very smart.
So talk to me about promoting pins. We kind of touched on it quickly. Have you had success with it? I've had a lot of questions. I haven't really dove into it though.
Okay, that's what I hear from a lot of people, is that they're still pretty nervous. And I will say, on a very base level, I love promoted pins. I love that they're inexpensive. I can set my price. And I would always tell people, if they're starting out with promoted pins, to start with a pin that is already doing well. So here's an example. I have one pin that drives 90% of my Pinterest traffic, and it's about how to clean up Pinterest boards. And if I went into my Google Analytics, it's the top 10 all the time. And so what I did was I started promoting it because it had a specific email opt-in for the PDF checklist download for you to be able to clean up your boards. And I knew that investing in this promoted pin, my goal was to get more people on my email list. So I was essentially promoting a pin, paying the cost to boost my email list. Yeah. The other thing that I have done is I've tried a newer pin. So in the beginning of the end of December, we actually did the 2017 Pinterest Planner. That's when we launch it every year. Well, as a new pin, I wanted it to be in the system for a little bit. I wanted people to click it, pin it, whatever. And then I promoted it. So those newer pins don't work as well, but if you continue to revisit it and get it kind of pinned every once in a while, like pin it to your other boards every so often, then down the line, maybe in like a month, I'll promote it again. And I only promote right now for really cheap, like 10 cents a click, $5 a day for about a week. and I choose specific keywords that I know this person might be searching for if they're looking for a Pinterest planner or they're looking to how to clean up your Pinterest boards. And then I target in on those people. I always choose traffic. Always, always, always. You can choose between traffic, awareness, and engagement. And engagement and awareness are based off impressions. And impressions on Pinterest are not the same as a click or a page view.
Right.
They're literally somebody scrolling by on their phone who saw your pin.
Okay.
I would like somebody to take action, which is why when you do a traffic campaign, you are only paying for a click. You don't pay for repins. You don't pay for impressions. If somebody actually clicks on that pin and clicks over, that's what you pay for. And I love that because that's why I hate Facebook, because when I do Facebook ads, I'm 90% sure I'm doing it wrong. And I pay like a gazillion dollars for 2 people to see it, and I feel like I don't know my clicks. I don't know like none of that. So Pinterest is getting really good at adding like a conversion tag, and that's more advanced. So I don't want to go super down that road, but I will say they have options for you to track, customers or signups or opt-ins using lead pages. You can add their pixel code to your site or to anything else where you want to track. So I would encourage anybody who's nervous to always just try it once. And if it doesn't seem to work, like don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Try it again and try a few different things. And I have a lot of podcasts about promoted pins because I really wanted to ask a lot of people how they used it.
Okay.
And so there's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 podcasts about it. And there's a last one I think about my results. So I walk through exactly what I did and what my assistant did and what we saw. And that will give you a baseline to just jump off and try it. So if you have a post that does really well on Pinterest, definitely promote it. Put $25 behind it and run it for 4 days.
I love
and just see what happens.
I love the fact that you said that you made sure there was an opt-in on it, because I think that's key. It's not just about getting the traffic anymore. Like, we've got to be honest about this. It's about growing our list, and it should be targeted. So I love the way that you said that, because that's definitely something that we really hone in on my master's group. So thank you for that. So what do you think that all online entrepreneurs should put into practice via Pinterest?
I would say the biggest thing is to be consistent. Number one, just be active on the platform with what you feel like your week can handle. And so if you feel like you have an hour per week to devote to looking around on Pinterest, seeing what people are pinning, looking at your analytics, devote that hour to that so you can understand what's happening. And you can schedule in that time too, especially if you're only scheduling like 3 to 5 pins per day. And I have some friends who only do 3 to 5 pins per day. As long as you're getting something over there every single day, that's a good place to start. Beyond that, once you get to know what's going on, then you can start to branch out a little bit more into the promoted pin space, or changing up your images, or thinking strategically about your opt-in. You can make multiple images for one opt-in landing page, and they can all go there. And that's a super smart way to use the platform to grow your email list, both organically and then through paid promotions.
Right. I love that. So the one question that I always ask all of my guests are projections for 2017. Anything, you can go anywhere, Pinterest, just in general. What would you say?
I would say 2017. Well, Pinterest just released a bunch of new features yesterday on their page that I love them. And I love, one of them is that you can be in a store and take a picture of something, and Pinterest will search for that specific pin on Pinterest, so you could either buy it or pin it for later. Something related to that. And I love that, because as I'm seeing basic users, they're at a hotel or they're somewhere and they're like, I love this tile. Like, how do I buy this tile? So you can take a picture and see that. So I think that search element on Pinterest, the visual search element, will become super important over this year. I'm actually doing a podcast episode too about this whole predictions of 2017. Watching what video is doing on Pinterest will be really interesting, because video on Pinterest does still feel like a speed bump. It feels weird. Whereas, if you're on Facebook, you come to expect a video like every third status update or whatever.
Right.
But I'm really curious how they're going to integrate video on their platform when it doesn't really feel like a lot of people want video over there. We want, visuals to be able to click through to see the video. And so that path towards YouTube, what that looks like and how YouTube and Pinterest integrate, how you use them. And then also just seeing where they go with search. Like, do keywords still remain front and center, or does that visual search tool become even more important because of their camera, or because of they have a new thing too, where if you're on an image, you can click more at the bottom and it'll show you more related images. So how will that be? How do they pull content? So I don't know. I'm just really curious to see what they're going to do with all that. And they have also new promoted pin ads. I know they have the one tap. So instead of, when you click on a pin now, you go to that pin, like now it just goes straight to the site. Will users do well with that, or is that weird? Like when we break when we're trained to do something and we're used to it, but when you change it, we're like, that's weird. Like, I don't want to go to the site right away. I need that buffer, maybe. I want to decide.
Right.
So I think it'll be interesting to see how promoted pins move to front and center. If they get more expensive, I don't know yet. But I definitely think if you sell a physical product, you need to have your product on Pinterest with a Bible pin so that people can do it. So if they're in the store and they find a product they like, they can go onto Pinterest and buy it. So it's kind of, those are not so much my predictions, but my curiosity about 2017.
Where it's going to go. I love that.
Yeah.
So now you have something for my audience. You have a download that they can get at jennymelrose.com/podcast9. Oh no. I told you I was going to do this.
I know.
No, it's jennymelrose.com
yes.
/podcast9. Okay.
So I do. So one of the things that we do every year is a 2000, whatever the year is. But so for this year, it's 2017 Pinterest Planner. And what we do is we do what you need to be doing every month so that you can keep on top of not just your Pinterest marketing, but making sure that your blog is optimized and that you are putting in links to make money. And then we have some cheat sheet guides in there for our promoted pin guide is actually in there, our quick start guide. And then how to clean up Pinterest boards is in there as well as a tracking stats page. So you can look for what's happening throughout the year, and we walk through how to do that. And then every first Tuesday of the month on my Facebook page, we go over that month in the planner. So just last week I did, or I guess 2 days ago, what to do for February. So it's a great download. Some people have printed them off and bound them as a little workbook, and it's become more of their like business planner and Pinterest planner all in one.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for that. And where can everyone find you?
So I'm simplepinmedia.com, and then Simple Pin Media across all channels, Twitter, Facebook, and then I have a really active free Facebook group that is all about Pinterest strategy. We don't talk about anything else. There's no Instagram, Facebook. There's not even a place there where we can talk about group boards, because I know that Pinterest group boards is another great Facebook group for that, but we do talk about tribes. So there's a lot of tribes you can join in that as well.
I love that. And you also have the podcast Simple Pin Media as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well,
yeah, the Simple Pin podcast.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Kate, for answering all of my questions.
You bet. I loved it.
Great.